Welcome to another episode of Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig McFarland, and today I am joined by the comedian, base jumper. He's still got a lot going on. Alistair Clark. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. Just enduring more isolation in these different times.
Yes, it's very different, and I want to acknowledge first, you've done the COVID buzz cut.
Yes. Yeah, that's happened the other day. It's, I was just waiting for the barbers to open up, but it doesn't look like it's happening. So this is the result now.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fair. Yeah, this is why I'm wearing a lot more hats than I normally do.
Ask about the hat. Yeah.
So let's get right into it. Starting with comedy here. When did you decide to try out stand-up?
Oh, I am brand new. I mean, calling me a comedian is a bit of a stretch at the moment. I've only been up 5 times, but started in January. And, I've been wanting to do it for about a year, I guess, watching different stand-up shows, other amateurs. The Kill Tony show has got to be my favorite, watching other people kind of develop, their method of it. So I decided I just kind of cracked one day and I went down and did the open mic down at Broken City and enjoyed the hell out of it and had a good time. And they asked me to come back. So I've been going back as much as I can up until this shutdown.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was it that drew you to stand up? I've done it once and it can be a scary thing, but once you get up there, it's fun.
That's it exactly. It's the fear thing. It's the same thing that drives my jumping. And a lot of other things that I've done throughout my life. I really enjoy, people say adrenaline junkie and this, and maybe so. I find it quite relaxing, but that heightened level of excitement is really, you can't find it that high anywhere else besides, stand-up comedy, performing, and then jumping.
Yeah. And now how would you describe your style of comedy?
Right now, I'm just trying to figure out all the kind of beats and process how to form jokes. So I'm really taking advantage of all the real low-hanging fruit, sort of the kind of basic stuff, but trying to approach it in more of an intelligent manner, I guess. At least it feels that way when I'm telling jokes. Really, I'm just sort of taking advantage of all the real dark things in life, all the taboos in life, and going from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way you got to do it. I've always been a strong supporter of finding the comedy in some dark moments. And you also mentioned intelligence. People don't realize a great comedian typically is really smart because there's proper execution and you have to find unique ways to make something, unique, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have your own unique perspective on it, something that I like to be self-deprecating and sort of make fun of the subject itself. And then you've also got to have that communication with the audience and how to bounce it back and forth and to make it actually work live and with people. So that is a complex dynamic. And I can't say I'm good at it by any means, but I'm sure as hell having fun at it. So it's good.
And it's hard to, especially that first open mic night, and you're planning your first set, because you can't really just gather a bunch of friends and family to practice out of them because everybody has different sense of humor and you don't know what the audience is going to be like. So it's a lot of work to prep for that first one. How did you prepare for your first open mic night?
Mine was really introspective. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. No, I told maybe 2 people that I was going to do it. I really kind of wanted the anonymity of it, which is silly because, going out in public and saying all these things with your name attached to it. But somehow I've tricked myself into having that feeling of anonymity when I'm out there doing it. So for me, really, I watched, names are going blank now, but Mitch Hedberg, one-liners. That's where I said start off super simple, just set up, misdirect, punchline, and other small punchy jokes. And then starting to graduate more into telling stories with writing it in that same setup, misdirect, punchline kind of sequence. But really, that was what I kept in mind. Just keep it as basic as possible. Try and stick to some one-liners at first and then maybe some two-liners and just make quick little punches and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. I had to do it, everything I just written down in front of me because I tried to memorize things and I had a 5-minute set to memorize. I'm so nervous and I knew I wasn't going to memorize any of it. So I just walked up on stage with a sheet of paper in front of me and apologized for reading it off the paper, and then just went ahead and did it. Just got it over with, and it seemed to work. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. So I've been doing that since. But
you gotta own it. You gotta own everything, and if you acknowledge these things, and it helps put the audience at ease, and they don't really know if it's supposed to be part of your shtick or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And I think that's the way to develop a shtick in the first place, is just be you. And
Yeah.
it's going to progress. It's going to grow. You're going to have to crash and stumble a bunch of times on the way. But yeah, I can't even describe how fun.
It's a lot of fun to be on there, and to make people laugh is just, there's like no better feeling than it. It's fantastic when things go well and people are laughing. It's great.
And it's like license to say anything too. Got so much dark stuff stirring around in our brains, and you can't say this stuff out in public. It's not like you can spill it out there. And in comedy, yeah, you can just say whatever the hell you want, short of being cruel. Then
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Oh, totally. So what do you, it's been shitty not having things open, but it makes sense, and we're trying to be smart. But what do you look forward to about having like comedy clubs in particular open up again?
Honestly, that's like a selfish thing. I just want to enjoy myself on the stage again. And yeah, it's that's really what I'm just looking forward to, is how much fun it is. And I don't really know any of the other comics, so I don't really have a social scene in there at all yet, because I'm so new. But it is fun just to go sit down in the comedian section and like try to talk to people, and they're kind of like looking at you like, how long are you going to be around for, sort of thing. And that's a fun dynamic. I like talking to the producers too, and seeing kind of the history of what they've been doing, because like, I'm so brand new to it. I don't know anything about the history really. So it's definitely just a kind of a sense of exploration that I look forward to getting back to.
Do you have some comedy idols that like really inspired you and thought, oh, okay, I can do this, or I want to do it for them, I guess?
What gave me the confidence to say I could do it was watching these first timers that get up on the Kill Tony show. And if they can just walk out of the audience with like really very little prepared and just go for it. And then I'm kind of watching the pattern of how this is going and what's working for people and what isn't. That's what gave me the confidence to get up. And then once driving down to the first open mic, it was so terrifying. And I walk in and I feel like I've already gone in too deep. Now I can't turn back, especially when the producer sees me and I've told him I'm coming. And he's like, yeah, you're on tonight for sure. And I'm just sitting there waiting my turn. Like, what have I done? I don't want to do this now, but still have that, thought in the back of the mind that you just got to go through with it and see what it's like.
Yeah. Well, okay. So jumping from one very scary thing, and I don't know what people would prefer to do. There's a lot of people who would prefer to do either, but as mentioned, you're a base jumper. Explain to people what a base jumper is.
Well, base jumper, I'm not technically a base jumper because of the acronym. It's building, antenna, span, and earth. And I've only done, I guess, a span, which is like a bridge, and then earth jumps and one antenna. But my thing is the mountains. I jump in the mountains all the time, and I have been for a decade. But yeah, you're jumping off of a solid object, like an earthbound object, and then free falling or flying a wingsuit like I do. And then you pull your parachute at an appropriate height and land and smile and go home.
Yeah, just that's it. That's as simple as that. You just smile and go home afterwards.
It's fun to simplify it, but yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I've been doing it for 10 years, and the initial process to get in was long and drawn out. Hundreds of skydives and hundreds of base jumps, getting hang of flying the wingsuit from airplanes first, so you're doing it in as safe a location as you can. And I went to Norway for a month to do a lot of my first jumps and be under some people that knew what they were doing. So I had some guidance and did all my, cut my teeth in Norway and got, at least 30 jumps there in a month, and then came back to Canada. And I knew that there were jumpers out here. I've met a few. I knew where a few jumps were vaguely. I had to go find them myself still. But when I got back from Norway, I was just prepared enough to do it in a survivable manner.
Wow. So, and I see that's your wingsuit behind you, isn't it?
That's one of them. Yeah. This is my
yes,
sports car. Yeah.
So it's exactly what the title says, is wingsuit. Like you look like, well, as people trying to figure it out, like think of spy movies. Like the spies always seem to have them underneath their suits.
I mean, there's definitely some technology to them. They have inlets so the wings inflate. When you're dropping through the airspeed itself inflates the wing, makes it a rigid, stiff wing when you're flying it. But yeah, when you're wearing it on the ground, it literally is just a fabric suit that's built to your measurements and webs between your hands and your hips and your feet. And just, yeah, just increases your surface area so you can get some kind of glide.
Yeah, so you're gargoyles. That's what I was thinking of. You're like gargoyles. You glide.
Yeah, yeah. I like to think of us as the flying squirrels, just leaping out of a tree and basically just having a downhill slope for the most part. Until recently, you know, only over the last few years, the suits have gotten so good that we can actually gain altitude in them now. Not sustainably, but after a nice long dive, picking up speed, I can flare up and actually get about 100 feet of altitude gain, which has opened up a lot of the terrain that we can fly in the mountains now, because you can pull away from the mountain much more efficiently into open airspace to deploy the parachute.
That's it's all just so crazy to me. Like, I've watched some of your videos. I've seen other people do. I think the one that I think about the most is actually Family Guy. There was an episode where Peter and his friend did it. Did not turn out so well.
No.
um,
That
but
is
like,
the downside to things. That is the downside, yeah.
were people nervous for you when you said you were going to try this out? Like,
I think so. I mean, I've been addicted to watching the videos for about a year before I ever even did a skydive. And I've been showing people, being like, you know, at first I was just like, yeah, I'll never do this. This is just for other people. And then I just kept on getting more and more obsessed, and finally kind of said to people, I'm gonna go learn how to do this. And they're all just like, that's not a good idea. Anyone who I told was kind of like, well, they didn't believe me to begin with. So they never really took anything seriously. But within my first year of skydiving, I'd done, you know, up close to 100 jumps and got straight into base jumping. And I progressed through it so quickly. And that's when all the other skydivers started saying, you're going too fast. You know, you're going to die for sure the way you're going. Who do you think you are, kind of thing. But, you know, a decade later, fortunately, I've proved all that wrong and sorted my way through it. I've definitely made mistakes early on, but gotten away with it. There's situations that I've gotten away with that weren't my doing. They were complete fluke to have gotten away with it. I think that's kind of the sketchy thing about learning the sport. Before you really can't avoid running into these situations. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And then you're going to find them out the hard way. And this sort of is luck of the draw for who gets through that sort of initial learning curve. But now that I've got a decade and hundreds of mountain jumps, I'm quite consistent and use a really good measuring system to sort everything
out. So yeah, speaking of measuring, like, I assume weather plays a huge factor, and like, you need to get like accurate weather results when it, like, wind and everything.
Yeah. I just prefer an absolutely still day. Nice still air with no weather in the forecast. You know, you hike up, everything's just a beautiful sunny day, and that's the best day to go. You can handle a little bit of wind. Crosswinds are bad, tailwinds are bad. But if you have a nice dead straight on headwind coming square up the cliff face, then you can actually benefit from that, getting some lift. But yeah, once you start messing around with winds, it gets really, really complicated. I prefer just a nice still day that eliminates that factor. And then, yeah, the measuring is the important part, because you got to know how much you fall, how much distance you can make in a certain amount of fall, and measure the mountains out. I mean, my biggest passion is exploring the mountains and finding new jumps that have never been jumped. That's really where my passion is. So I have this little device, a laser rangefinder, but a really, really high-tech one, and I can measure up to 2,000 feet. It does all the triangulations for me, does all the math, tells me how far I got to get over objects, as well as the GPS unit on my helmet that I wear tells me the shape of my glide ratios. So after hundreds of jumps, I have a really good data set to know what I'm capable of doing. And then I just lay those two numbers on top of each other. And really, I haven't had any surprises in the last few years of jumping.
That's awesome. I'm just so intrigued by this. Like, and that first time you jumped off a mountain, what was that feeling like for you?
I could barely get my legs to move. I've actually got a video on my YouTube channel of my first few jumps, and the one there and where I'm sitting in Squamish, and I got my helmet on and camera. It took me about an hour. I was standing there and I kept on doing the count and trying to go forward, and my legs just wouldn't work. And finally something just snapped, and it's like, you know how to do this. This is easier than tying your shoelaces. Just run off the edge, pull your parachute, and get it done with. And once my mind...
Yeah, that's totally easier than tying your shoelaces.
It honestly is. If you can get past all the emotional stuff, get past all that fear, you're literally just running off, reaching behind you and throwing out a deployment parachute. Like it's so bloody easy, which I think is part of the problem with the activity, because it's an idiotic thing to get into. It's very easy. So it gets a lot of idiots in the sport, and, you know, but mistakes are equally easy to make. So it's one of those things.
Had you done bungee jumping before doing
No,
all this? Like,
no,
no.
I'm one of these guys who's terrified of other people's contraptions. I don't trust their mechanics to. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like any of these things where I got to rely on somebody else's smarts to keep me alive. I'm like, no, I'm out.
Okay, that is fair. I respect that, and that makes sense. You know, it's you're doing stuff that you're like, all right, something goes wrong. This is on me. This is Mother Nature. That's
Yeah.
fine. But then, you know, putting it somebody. Do you enjoy like flying in an airplane?
To a certain degree. I mean, I like being up there, but yeah, it's the same thing. I don't even like water skiing. I don't like being towed. I don't like having somebody else, you know, driving, you know, my fate. I like doing things on my own. I mean, airplanes, of course, are just sort of a necessary evil for getting places. But yeah, I know on takeoff and landing, I'm like, what are the odds? I always think about it.
Do you just carry your carry-on is just your parachute, and you're just like, just in case, guys?
When I am traveling with my gear, my parachute is my carry-on because I don't want it to go missing. And I just have it out in a regular bag. And some people go, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's a parachute. And they start looking at you funny that you're bringing a parachute on carry-on. But yeah, that's the best way to travel with your gear to keep it safest, especially with the base jumping gear. You know, you want to really have continuity of you knowing where it's been and what's happened to it. I don't like my rig sitting anywhere that I don't know.
Fair. So what is it about? Apparently, we're doing testings of fire alarms in my building. So sorry if things just go off. What is it about Norway that is like a great place for you to go to learn this stuff?
The cliffs are much larger and much more overhanging. There's a few spots that you can go to. One in particular that actually has a club and teachers. And just because the cliffs are so much bigger, you've got so much more time in the air, much more open space. Really, it just kind of gives the margin for error to be larger. And as well as it being much older activity in Norway with much more experienced people, I thought that seeking guidance, that's where I would have to go to do it.
Is there still a place that you want to go, base jumping or parachute? Where's it?
Right now, my favorite place is our own Canadian Rockies. There's a whole lifetime of unexplored mountains out there. They're world class as far as the quality of jumping. They're not quite as tall as some of the like Swiss Alps, French Alps. I would like to go there as well. I have friends over there that I'd like to visit, but really it's so difficult to tear myself away from our local mountains. It's just this endless source of exploration for me.
Well, they're great. I love them. What else do you want to do? What's another adrenaline thing you want to try?
Um, Probably more things in terms of performance. Definitely want to go through the stand-up comedy stuff a lot further. I don't think I'm going to ever stop doing that now. And then whatever else can come, whatever doors open up from that. I used to aspire to be an actor. Took some acting courses, things like that, but really found that I didn't enjoy the industry as much. Just way less freedom, as well as I'm not that good at it. So, you know, you get an extra job. I've had a speaking part in a pilot for Bush Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but it never got picked up. And then, of course, you don't get paid, and then so on and so on. So I just sort of soured on that. But if other doors open up after stand-up comedy for that, then absolutely.
And then I wanted to ask you, of course, I'm asking everybody, like, what are you binging right now? What's something you recommend to people?
I've just got Amazon Prime, and what is it called again? Carnival Row is an amazing show. I binge watched that from start to finish. It's if you like sci-fi kind of stuff, monsters and goblins and fairies and that kind of stuff, all mixed in with old-time British sort of kind of period piece, then it's great. Yeah, I don't really binge too much else. What is that? I can't think of names. I'm terrible. My short-term memory is absolutely gone. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's what I've been watching recently. Yeah, so comedy.
That is a great one.
Yeah, and anytime a stand-up special gets on, everything that's been coming out on Netflix for stand-up specials are fantastic. yeah, loved them all.
Yeah, there's some really great ones. There's one that I don't think people know enough about. It's called the Comedy Lineup, and it's a bunch of just 50-minute long episodes of just this one comedian coming up and doing acts, and they got a different comedian each episode. Like I said, 15 minutes. They're a great little thing to binge and watch.
Yeah, I definitely started that one, and then I haven't watched it for a bit. But yeah, that's definitely a good one I got to get back to.
Yeah, there's so much to watch, and of course, being creative, this has got to be a good time for you, like you said, to just like figure out how you're gonna go, and create some stuff. You know, hopefully the world gets better soon, and we can open up the comedy clubs again, because people need humor. I mean, look at what's been one of the most popular things in the past few months, Tiger King, and that's because people are just laughing at how ridiculous these people are.
I think I got a theory on that one. I think people love it because it just makes them instantly feel superior, and they're just like, oh man, these guys' lives are a mess. Like my life's pretty good, as well as it's being like, the characters are unbelievable. I mean, whoever discovered these people must have just thought, I don't need hair and makeup. I don't need sets. I don't need any prep. All we got to do is film these people. The whole story tells itself. Like, it's, as far as production value, you don't even have to write it. Like, it's it's just an instant free hit by the looks of it.
Well, exactly. I know everybody keeps talking about being so excited about the movies and TV shows that they're going to make based off of the Tiger King, and I'm betting you right now that they're all going to flop, because
Yeah.
how can, like, it's already ridiculous enough. There's nothing to really make fun of, because they're making fun of themselves right in this documentary.
Yeah, every single thing that's going to be on it's going to feel like a shitty imitation of the real thing. It's yeah. I mean, I think that story sort of played itself out. It's about as good as it could possibly get. The odd update about maybe that guy getting out of jail, or Carol Baskins being convicted of murder, maybe like this kind of stuff could get off of it. But yeah, it's anything else, any movie motion, yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got so if people want to check out more of your stuff, you're on Instagram at Alistair Clark the comedian. But of course, I want to mention your YouTube page, which is Alistair Clark Comedy and Wingsuiting, because people can go on and you got tons of videos on there, but especially ones about you using your wingsuit and base jumping. Like, if people want to check this out,
it'll be the most entertaining stuff for the content that I have. I have a few little cooking episodes on there as well. That's just me trying to stay, performing and stay a little bit sharp. As well as I love cooking. I've joined that sourdough cult, and yeah,
I've noticed that you there is a cult, and I noticed you're part of it. You also did you make rabbit the other day?
Yes, I did. Yeah. A friend of mine raises them. I always get asked like, "Oh, where did that come from?" kind of thing, and I'm like, "Yeah, my buddy farms them." So I've had a few frozen rabbits in the freezer for a while. But yeah, smoked rabbit. It's wonderful.
Can't say I've ever had that, but I'm not opposed to it.
Creation this morning.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff I'll keep myself entertained with. Yeah, whatever gets the bread rising, as they say.
Yeah. Oh no, you're better than that.
Oh no, I'm really not. No, I'm not better than anything.
Well, make sure to go check them out, guys. At Alistair Clark the comedian, you'll find he's posting lots of fun stuff. You can see smoked rabbits, you can see sourdough creations, and then of course, check out YouTube page Alistair Clark Comedy and Wingsuiting to check out some crazy videos. I was like, I was watching them and I was like, I don't understand. Like,
yeah, it's weird because it's so
I would want to try it, but I just watching the video, I'm like, I think that's good for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's flying an aircraft, right? It's a really basic, low tech aircraft, but it's not one of those things you can just try. You definitely got to get out there and learn it like any other aircraft.
Yeah, I went parasailing once, and that was enough for me.
Yeah. It's the whole process. You got to get over the gear fear initially. You got to know what you're doing. The first time I was hanging from a parachute, like thousands of feet in the air, I was just looking at these little straps that they're literally keeping me alive, and I really didn't like that feeling. But it all becomes normalized the more that you end up doing it. You take all the small steps of progression, and yeah, maybe I'm crazy, but I think it's an absolutely sustainable activity to keep doing for the rest of my life.
Well, I would just say that I think crazy has no meaning anymore.
Yeah.
I think we all are a little crazy, and we've all done it. So, well, not done, base jumping, but
Yeah.
but thank you. I appreciate you being on here today. It was a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to things reopening when the world is safe to do so, so we can come check you out. But yeah, everybody keep up to date at Alistair Clark, the comedian, on Instagram, Alistair Clark Comedy and Wingsuiting.
It's actually
Yeah.
Alistair Clark, the Canadian.
Oh, the Canadian.
I know it's too close. It's confusing, but that's sort of the joke, I guess.
Right. That's it. I got it. So check him out. And then, of course, follow us on Passing Time with Craig at PTW Craig. Alistair, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, going in your house and videoing me.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Craig. And now I've been put onto your podcast. I'll have some more entertainment for myself to watch. So I'm stoked.
Exactly. There you go. All right. Thank you guys. And we'll chat soon.